I'll call tonight's meeting together for the North Highlands Recreation and Park District monthly meeting. First thing on the agenda is approval of the minutes. Let's see. I didn't have it. Anyone have? First and second.
Okay, motion? Yeah. That's a good motion.
Yeah, first and the second. Who's gonna? Okay, we got first, second, any other discussion?
Claudia moved and Crystal second.
Yes. Yeah, we're ready.
Board Member Hardy. Aye. Board Member Valley.
Aye.
Chairperson Williams.
Go aye.
Okay, we have a motion passed 3-0 and 1 absent.
Question, Larry, you mentioned my email to Terry was just, it was, I guess that's not the process, that's not the way we should do it moving forward. It should be addressed within the meeting, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And the reason for that is in the event that, one, we know specifically what you're talking about, and it's easy to get the correct change with everybody here. And in the event that somebody says, well, I don't remember hearing that, I heard something different, that way we can't go back afterwards and change the minutes once you've approved them here. So yes, always the proper way is to bring the changes to the meeting and bring them up, and then we can make those corrections. And that way when Terry goes to type up the minutes, it's all there.
Yes, thank you.
Is it moved? That was taken wrong?
Find out. I always like checking the turn sucks. Don't get in trouble.
Is it plugged in? On the side?
Because it should go right to left, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm doing, I just opened them all up.
Yeah, that's why.
But is it plugged on the side?
Okay, now we're going. Hey, welcome to you that missed out the
Yes,
first part. Alright. Alright, so now chairperson's report. Oh, that's me. I only got two things. One, I somewhat spoke to Larry already, employee of the month. I'd like to see what we've come up with. You know? So just FYI, we'll get that in the works somewhere. But then my main thing I want to talk about was the Easter, Halloween party. I think it was Easter. That's how far behind I am being retired. Halloween party, I just have to say, spectacular, marvelous.
Thank you.
A lot of people between you two and Sergio and Scott, and it was great. My kids, my grandkids had a great time with it. A lot of people. More than I thought it'd be here for the COVID, but it was nice. So that's it with me. So comments from other fellow board members?
Yes, I'd like to echo that. Fantastic job. I was impressed. I came and dropped my family off because I had work, but I was checking everything out on social media as a post and just capturing the moments. And even some of the vendors that were present, I'm glad that y'all did a great job securing like good organizations and folks that engage and connect with families. I can't believe we're already in the month of November. And I'm excited for you all already have something on the books, December 4th for the holiday. So I would love to support. I already checked my calendar, I'm working, but I would love to help with setup or whatever I can do donating wise.
Call it sick.
Say it again?
Call it sick and all.
No, that's a good idea. I'm wondering the time, yeah, absolutely. I already feel it coming on. And then would love to know, I mean, like ongoing contributions, like how does the district prefer community members to donate? If it's funds or money or whatever it is, like what works best for the team to receive donations. But thank you so much for the amazing job you all are doing.
I have something, but I want to give Larry or someone else a chance to answer Chris's question about.
I wasn't sure she
Sure,
knows
the
the question or statement. Yeah, the easiest thing to do, Crystal, is have the individual contact the district, because there, for instance, a couple months ago, I got a phone call, somebody wanted to donate like 50 baseball bats. Well, we don't have a place for 50 baseball bats, and we don't run a baseball program. So it's better for them just to call, and rarely do we turn things down that we can certainly use. So that's probably the best way, is just have them contact someone from the district, and we'll let them know for sure.
Is that the case for financial and monetary contributions too?
Oh, definitely call Visa.
I'm saying, is something available online to click away, like donate here, just like how we can register online?
Yeah, we don't right now, but we've actually talked about that, because they're, one of the ways of part of fundraising efforts for a district is that on the registration forms, and I've had this at several places I worked before, where you're signing up for a $50 program for your child, and there's a box down below, would you like to donate $1, $2, or $5 to the district? And so that when it shows up as a $55, we can see whether it's $5 that they check, then we can transfer that into the proper account. So yeah, we actually have been recently talking about that, how we can put that together.
Awesome.
Or they call me if they want.
If they got one, call Larry. So, congratulations on a job well done, team, for the Halloween event. And December the 4th happens to be my birthday. And I was just today planning some things for my birthday, which means I got to give folks a call now and say, well, can we do it either the 3rd or the 5th? Right, because I want to be in full participation. What I wanted to mention tonight is the very tragic and devastating accident that happened last Friday here in North Collins, where we saw 2 entrepreneurs, 2 street vendors that I've just become accustomed to seeing on the weekends, especially when the weather is great. And I've done some street vending myself, and hey, it isn't easy. I mean, sometimes you have this big boom of customers, and then you might have this long lag time without customers, right? And so it's just kind of the nature of the business. But I know this time last week, the 2 women who lost their lives were probably setting up and preparing for the next day being Friday. They probably were sharing meals with their families, seeing their children, grandchildren, loved ones, husbands, spouses, and then got up the next day to do work to make sure that they could take care of their family. And in a single instance, less than a second, their lives were cut short. And that day I had been running around, I was in the neighborhood all day long, and I saw that they had a new flag up. And I had a fundraiser to attend at 5 o'clock. So I passed them about 3:30. And I said, okay, I'm going to go home and get dressed. I'm going to try to leave out about 10 minutes early because I want to stop and pick up this new flag that I saw they had later. Went home, did my stuff, got back in the car, and as I am at this light, I see 7, 8 county sheriffs, the police tape, crime scene tape. And my only prayer was, Lord, please let everybody be okay. And it wasn't until I returned home later that night, about 9:30 or 10, looking on Facebook, that I realized they died. So I just want to give a moment to celebrate the life of community members. I don't think they necessarily lived in North Collins, but they definitely were small business owners in North Collins. And my heart goes out to their families. And I just hope we learn something from this. I don't know quite what. I mean, everything's on the surface. Be careful. Don't speed. Pay attention. All those kinds of things. But 2 lives were cut down in a matter of microseconds. And so my prayers, my well wishes go to them, their family, and their friends. Thank you.
All right, number 5. reports from standing committees, well, we do have, but it's under new business, so we will enter the budget, finance, and audit. So we'll move on from that one, and we'll go to administrator's report.
I have just a couple things that probably you've done, and you've probably already read them several times already. We have reached out and had a vacancy in our board. We noticed it in the Sacramento Bee. We posted it in the 3 locations that was required by law. And we did other things such as putting on an electronic signboard, et cetera, trying to reach out to the community to get some interest. And as you're well aware, that we did receive 4 letters of interest. And we'll deal with that issue later on the agenda. Also, which you certainly knew when you looked at your packet, that there was no financial documents in your packet. And as I stated in the report, our meeting normally would have been November 11th, but that fell on a holiday, so the board moved it up to the 4th. The way the timing is getting our documents from the county, they usually show up a few days before we put our final agenda together to get it out to the board. So we were unable to do so, but Terry has placed those financial documents at each one of your workstations. So you have them, and I'm sorry you won't have probably the normal amount of time to review those, but if you have any questions, we certainly can answer those for you. And that's all of my report.
Scott?
Outside my written report, I don't have anything to add. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
I was, oh, sorry, Larry, go ahead.
What's that?
I mean, not Larry, Patrick, I'm so sorry.
No, you're good, you're good.
Oh, when I saw that there were dog waste bag dispensers installed in every single park. The little things. Yes, they matter. They count.
Yes, they do.
They do. And I'm really grateful that y'all take the
Long
time to do
overdue,
that.
so, yeah, long overdue.
Yeah, even though they're not a dog park, right, they still use it. They still frequent those parks. So I'm glad that we have those resources there. And I hope that our responsible pet owners utilize that. And then I'm excited about the grant. I'm not sure, this is saying that we're going to apply for the grant for the K Park Gymnasium updates. Okay, cool. So wishing y'all all the best.
Well, this grant, every district, every recreation department in the state, this isn't a competitive grant. You do have to submit an application outlining what your project is, what the timeline is, those type of things. And then there's some very stringent accounting, tracking as the project goes on. And but the first step is getting the application in. We finally got all our paperwork together. We just found out just a day or 2 ago we have a new program manager that we work with down at the State Parks Division, and so we're endeavoring to reach out to her so she knows when our project is coming in and she can be aware of that.
Just so you know, I just want to add to this. This is approximately $200,000. It's called a per capita grant for a reason. It's based on the population of that community, and it's special districts, county, city, parks and recreation departments are all eligible for this. It's, as Scott said, you're getting the money, but when they did this 8 years or 10 years ago, they wrote you a check and it came in the mail and you do with it what you want to do with it. Well, they changed that policy now. Now you have to tell them in advance what you're doing. You have to put a budget together. But it's a process that it's not as stringent as certainly the Prop 68 park grant. Not even close to that. So the money is going to be guaranteed coming into our district. And so Scott's tasked with putting the application together. I'm guessing Pat, I know Pat was on the board, but this is fairly new to the 3 new board members, is that the board had decided originally to upgrade the Cape Park gym floor, because if you go in there, you'll see cracks in that floor, and replace the bleachers, and also to replace the signboard. Well, there was an urgency by several of the board members to get that replaced as soon as possible, so they allocated funding for the signboard, which actually was good because it put more money into the Cape Park project. So if everything goes as it should, that park will receive, and I think that it's reimbursable, right, Scott?
Yeah.
So we have to spend our money, and then the state will reimburse us back. But it's not a substantial amount. $200,000 is a lot of money, obviously, but as soon as we get approvals on it, we're going to get out as quick as we can to get bids on the project, because that's going to have to be an outside project. We can't do that. Anyway, I just wanted to chime in on that as well.
Larry, on that note, I know you and I had a very brief conversation earlier this week. And I know we're connected with lots of different, I guess, statewide entities for Parks and Rec, for special districts. Who do we look to, or that we know is tracking the available funds from the ARPA Act, American Recovery Program Act, basically Biden's COVID deal, right? There's just a lot of funding, and lots of people are grabbing at it. And I just want to make sure that we are not getting lost in that, or we don't miss out on some opportunity. So who is best to advise us on that? Because I got questions directly from the County Board of Suits, which I thought I would probably be able to go and ask them some questions, right? So, like, who do we talk to?
So the person who's asking you the question, the County Board of Suits, is the person you should be talking to, which concerns me. So let me just take a moment to share with everybody what this program is. So when President Biden took office, he allocated federal funds to states, and then the states then funneled those funds to the counties. And the county was supposed to be the warehouse of distributing those funds, initially just for a Sacramento County-based program. And let me jump in. Emily, weren't you part of the ones who made it? Emily Bowles, who is the general manager for Fulton El Camino Recreational Park District. I should probably let her address it.
Okay.
But I'll give the general framework. We approached, when I say we, the special park and recreation districts in Sacramento County approached the county and actually made a presentation. I think we had three board directors, or excuse me, general managers, administrators, through a Zoom meeting, got on the agenda to the county, and we basically said, look, here's a sample of all our districts of how much money that we've lost and had to reallocate towards COVID. And since you got the money, and so we're directly in some cases and indirectly, depending if you're a dependent or independent district, we're asking you to maybe share some of that money with our districts. And I think they were generally, based on what I watched, they seemed to be generally interested in doing so, but it was like the first step of the process. Well, as we know later on, and correct me if I'm saying this wrong, Emily, but what happened was Governor Newsom put in $100 million in the budget that's specifically allocated for special districts. And so now we have money that's directly coming to us. I'm thinking that even though I haven't heard the County Board of Supervisors say it, they're probably less inclined to share their money since they already know that we're getting funded through another source. And if I said that wrong, please jump in there, Emily, and correct me.
Thank you. I'm Emily Ballers with Fulton El Camino Recreation Park District, and I was one of the presenters on behalf of 12 park districts in this area. And one of the things we asked for was the governor has charged parks to be open during COVID, therefore we did what you asked, and therefore we expect you to make us whole because you've been made whole. And the supervisors did hear us, they listened, but then as Larry said, when the $100 million came down from the governor, they probably are less inclined, but we have been advised by the California Special District Association that whatever we apply to the state for, so say I apply, this is the number, 200,000, if I get 150,000, then I should then go back to my county and say I got 150 from the state to make me whole. I need 200, I need 50,000 from you. And so I think all of us, the nice thing, and Larry, thanks for bringing it up, because the nice thing is the 12 districts banded together to go to the county supervisors as a group, because I think it strengthened numbers. And I was so happy that all of our partners, we all were behind it and agreed, and I think it's really knocking still at the supervisor's door. So we're waiting on to hear back on what the state's gonna give us, and then we can double back to our supervisors if we didn't get anything, because they are beholden. They did get money, and you were right. They owe us for staying open.
And I will take you, and I have to tell you, I am a little, I sound a little jaded because I am. My concern is that, and since the three general managers made that presentation, was it 6 months ago maybe?
It was in April.
April, that we really haven't gotten a lot of strong feedback from the county. And you may remember, prior to that, there was funding that was allocated to the county to use for COVID, and like 80% of it ended up in the sheriff's department. And that created I still
Yes, it
continue to
did.
have an uproar, right? So, as our board is aware, and some of you may not be aware, when the governor put together the COVID relief program, all special districts, not just parks and recreation, water districts, cemeteries, and everybody's eligible to apply for this. And the idea is that they're basically saying that you may get 10% on the dollar back. Now, that's really kind of not, that's an uncertain statement, because it depends on how many people apply, how much they apply for, and then it's going to be divided up. And I mentioned to our board that I think our expenditures and there's also lost revenue, come right around $800,000 to $900,000. So, we would hope that based on this, right around maybe $100,000 or more that we can recover. And as Emily said, then the idea is that we will go back to our county board of supervisors, but I'm not trying to sound negative, but I don't have a lot of confidence that they're going to be, once they know that we got something from someplace else, they're going to be less interested in giving us some of their money, because no doubt they're going to come out and say, well, we have a great need for all the money that we have, and we're sure glad you got something from the state. I don't take that to the bank, and I could be totally wrong, and I hope I am. But
Me too, Larry.
but the good thing is we have this state program, this COVID relief, is really fast tracking. Why they did extend it, I think a month or two, a couple weeks, because people were having, I think, a hard time getting in. And what number were we carrying? 12?
12.
We were the 12th district to get into the system. But the way they set this up, we should know by January or even December how much we're going to get, and then they're going to start allocating money to the finance department, county finance department, who then will be writing checks to our special districts. So we're probably likely to get a certain amount of money from this state allocation long before the county makes a decision how they are going to allocate their money. And it could be that they're waiting for us to see what we're going to get too, because then maybe the argument could be made that, well, you got plenty. Because they're going to say, I've already heard one supervisor say that, well, nobody's going to be made whole in this process. So we'll see. But Emily, thank you for, I just remember, Emily was one of the presenters. So good, I know we got that information. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. Thank you. I'm gonna keep working the suits though.
Keep working on it.
All right.
All right, Ms. Sarah, recreation report.
Outside of my report, I do just want to let you all know that I'll be coming back in December with a more thorough report on aquatics. We have been in contact with Twin Rivers, which is the pool. We use their pools for our aquatics programs. And so we're gathering information on feasibility, and we'll come back in December with more information about that. We also sent postcards home for our winter series, and they should hit homes on the 12th. But beyond that, nothing more to add, but we'll entertain questions. There are.
Any questions? Go ahead.
Which schools, this is an amazing report, which schools will the volleyball and dodgeball be, or is it like the Twin River Sports? Is it at specific schools, or is it somewhere in one of our schools?
So we're contracted to run their elementary, middle school sports programs. We set up the schedules, bring in the referees. We use K-Part if it's possible, but the district is really responsible for providing the facilities for that.
School district.
The school district, what did I say, districts?
Yeah.
Sorry, the school district is responsible for helping us find adequate facilities to host games.
And I continue to ask about the older students, but I'm just gonna mention it again. With the soccer, volleyball, with any of the sports, even if it's not a program that's specific to older students, is there a possibility for them to volunteer, to lead, to partner with the staff, just to get them involved, some volunteer out, some type of engagement with our older students? And then I believe, so for senior programs, is it still senior movie day? It says senior mood day, so I thought it was like, is that a movie program?
Yes,
Movie?
exactly.
Okay. I was like, oh, now they're doing like exercise, wait, what is that? So, and then, super excited to see the draft of the projected like events and agenda for 2022. So I could make sure I'm available, not just that, but just to kind of see what y'all have going on and to, see how I can support. And then, I think that was it. The winter, that's the one that you're saying that the postcards already went out for the winter season?
Correct.
All right, and that's for the entire community or just the schools? What's the outreach impact, I guess?
So we pulled our constituent base from our ActiveNet, people who registered and rented from our facilities. So we're starting small, starting with the people who are already engaged with us. So it's kind of the first time we've done a postcard for rec programs, at least since I've been here. So we started with our ActiveNet constituent base.
That's amazing, and I'm really excited about that. I'm glad y'all are doing that. And I like that it's seasonal too, instead of like putting everything on, just, bite size in a sense, so, yeah, fantastic.
Thank you.
Do you have extra supply of the postcards?
So we don't get them.
Oh, okay. You get them mailed house.
They mail straight to
Yeah.
our vendor, we design, and we mail straight to.
Okay.
Can we get copies to distribute the sheriff's board? Can we get
Yeah.
a few extra copies?
Even if they're not the same weight, we can maybe drop down the weight of the cards or whatever.
Sure.
If it's a cost kind of thing.
Yeah, what we'll do is going forward, as you know, that we send out the postcards to the neighbors living around the two parks,
Right.
advising them of the work and the project that's going to take place in their parks. And I asked Scott for like an additional 25 or 30 cards for this very reason. But this first time recreation did it, and I'll take responsibility. I didn't mention to recreation staff to keep a few extras, but going forward, we'll make sure we have a number sent to us so we can distribute to you, maybe put on the counter in case the public comes in and sees those as well.
Also, I have a question. Roughly, you know how many cars went out? Just wondering.
506.
960?
506.
And just if I can add on to that, what Sarah said, with our computer registration system, it allows us, and you've heard me say this before, to do target marketing. So Rachel and Sarah can say that, okay, we're looking for the age group of 8 to 12. We're looking at this group that has, maybe families have participated in our programs previously, and we can generate that that information, so when we send those cards out, we know these are people who participated in our program, they're of the right age group, maybe they participated in a similar program before. So the likelihood is you're going to get more positive success doing that, as opposed to sending out 12,000 that maybe 60-70% end up in the garbage can and never seen. And so you have to, as we talked before, you have to weigh those cost factors. And that's the whole idea when we went to the computerized registration system, is to do that target marketing. So I think that for the first time out, they're nailing it. And going forward, you're going to see as they start programming the quarter in advance, we're going to be targeting those groups. And it could be multiple times we send out cards, depending on what the program is.
I'm also interested to hear kind of, I know we talked about it a little bit about like creating our scholarship sponsorship programs. Interested, how are we targeting businesses to invest in our programs as well, or just letting them know what's going on? Do we
That's coming back to the
address
board.
any of them?
That's coming back to the board.
Okay.
Yeah, we said once you approve the scholarship program, then we would come back with the process of just, getting that program off the ground. So Is that, Sarah, is that December or January that we'll bring up reports?
I think it's, December.
December? So next month you'll probably get a report based on how we're going forward with it, which is the fun part. You know, how do we go find people who've got money?
Yes.
Looking forward to it. You know, to build on what Crystal said, I see here that we did have Home Depot, Walmart, Winco, and Rayleigh's that pitched in with pumpkins. So was that just kind of pick up the phone or walk in, hey, this is what we got going on, and just tell me how that worked.
They were cold calls, basically. Christine and Rachel put together a list of people that, or vendors, so to speak, companies that they're familiar with, and just put out calls.
Okay. And they accepted the charge and all that kind of good stuff, right?
Correct.
Now, do we have a way of making sure that maybe this is a part of the scholarship program, that we appreciate them or highlight them
We
as
will.
community partners?
Yeah, we'll follow up with a thank you letter, with photos.
And as everyone knows that's been in the fundraising business, your best, the likelihood of you getting funding from these same businesses in the future is to make sure that not only do you thank them, but you tell them afterwards how their money was used.
Yes.
And there's nothing better than showing pictures of people being active in a program or activity and said that thanks to your contributions, we were able to put this on. That's more likely to get somebody to provide funding in the future as opposed to do nothing and then wait and send another card out, wait for the phone call and back and say, I didn't hear anything after I sent you the check last time. So yeah, kind of the do's and don'ts of fundraising, but that's exactly what we're going to be sharing with you, that process of how we're going to reach out and how we're going to manage those funds when we get it and how we acknowledge, and because we want to obviously get those people to, if they contribute once, to do it again and again and again.
So just kind of bug in your ear a thought to think about as you're planning that. So I did some nonprofit work with San Juan School District. And each year they have this kind of like appreciation day. I mean, it's just light hors d'oeuvres, you know, that kind of thing, lemonade, cookies. And then we got this little lapel pin, and I mean, they kind of had different categories, and I was a scholarship category. And that was about 3 years ago. I wear that lapel pin proudly. And so if we could think about some kind of little trinket like that, or something where that organization can send someone as a representative, it means the world. And if someone wants to call me right now and ask me to come scoop up, you know what I'm saying, I'd be there. I'd be there because I feel appreciated and I feel a part of that. So maybe that could be a part of what we see next month.
Yeah,
How we will.
where you start and where you're in usually are two different places. And
Yeah.
as you know, that our scholarship program was kind of non-existent for a few years because COVID. You're not offering programs. It's hard to do fundraising for things that don't exist. But, you know, we're rebuilding that back up, but we want to take it above and beyond where we were before. And we've talked about this before with the board. We were doing things that, you know, anything to try to generate money. I mean, we used to have a soda machine in the hallway, and a percentage of those proceeds were supposed to come back to the district to help fund, you know, programs. Well, that's small scale, and what you're going to generate off that really isn't going to make a huge, you know, difference. So what I think you're going to see coming from Rachel and Sarah is a program that's thinking much larger than that and a lot of forward thinking. So we'll bring this back to you in December, and let's hope it's what the board's looking for.
Thank you so much.
And no one else? All right. No correspondence. I didn't get an email today after 3. Comments or reports from citizens, none of that. Unfinished business, none of that. New business. First one is Miss Emily from the Fulton El Camino Recreation and Park District Police presentation.
Emily, you will notice that it's not plugged in. It just looks like it's real.
Side.
Then I will, and I told Don to get my good side. Can you hear me with my mask? Sometimes I'm muffled because I have a little voice. Okay.
Vote for it.
All right. Well, I am Emily Ballas, I'm the general manager.
Forget.
Jumping ahead here. I'm gonna pull it a little, this the glasses, sorry. So, and I won't do my PPP's park police all over you. Sorry. Thank you. So I'm Emily Ballas, I'm the general manager of Fulton El Camino Recreation and Park District, and we have a police department. They are a division of the Park District. Not only do they serve us, but we contract with 9 other park districts, of which North Highlands is one. And we provide these secure police services throughout the northern border of Sacramento County. Our officers provide security and law enforcement services to protect our park facilities generally, but also to help facilitate our park visitors and their families having a safe and enjoyable time while they're in our parks. Let me tell you a little bit about our officers. All of our officers have completed basic training academy, which is approved by the Peace Officer Standards and Training. You may have heard that as POST. Our officers must also take continuing education units on a biannual basis, and we bring in experts in mental health, peer support, child abuse, human trafficking, and so forth, to further educate them and raise their level of awareness and service that they must be able to provide. Our officers qualify at the shooting range, and we also host defensive tactic training to ensure our officers are fluent in the safest way to handle threatening situations. That said, we are very cognizant of the issues surrounding law enforcement generally across the country, and we are actively engaging in dialogue with our peer districts, other law enforcement agencies, and the community at large to get their input, hear their feedback, and discuss their insight and concerns. We're deeply attentive to our police department's work in the community, both serving and protecting our residents, as our officers are tasked with the great responsibility of appropriately and equitably upholding the law. And so with that, I wish Chief was here, and I apologize he could not be here for one of his children is in a play, so I apologize for that. And if you have any questions regarding law enforcement itself and how they do that, I will get those for you and give them to Larry. But if you have general questions, I'd love to answer any of those. And I also give you a little pamphlet just to give you food for thought and take home with you.
Anyone? Crystal?
During the pandemic, well, I used to see these reports and it's changed the format that they're giving it in, but it used to show the number of citations and warrants and arrests, all those things. I was interested to hear how officers respond during the pandemic with families that were maybe seeking refuge in a park, or I guess I just want to know, did the pandemic influence their approach to serving or issuing citations? Was it any type of policy that was during the pandemic, when you see this, don't do this? Just interested if it had any impact in how they served.
Well, mostly that would depend on what your general manager would also advise us. But so for instance, I can speak to what we did. We actually asked them to curtail citations and so forth on some level because people didn't have particularly probably all of you have community members who aren't rich and couldn't buy the big house or the big backyard, so you used your parks to go and get outside during the pandemic because there was nowhere else to go, right? And so we did suggest that they not cite and do those sorts of things during the pandemic, just because we have no idea. The DMV could have been behind, all those things. So we just said, hey, could you stand down at least during the pandemic? But again, it would depend on what you all would work with your general manager on what service you would like us to provide in your part of the district.
And then from experience in some of the reports that we received, there's concern about unhoused community members, so folks that are identified as homeless. Interested to know, is the department connected with any community-based organizations, so if they were to see someone experiencing homelessness or seeking refuge in a park, are they connecting with those organizations, or is it just citation or hands-off? Like, how do they approach that?
Well, our police department is a part-time department, right? And so when they're working, they may not, it may be from at midnight, right? And those services are not available. And so we don't actively work to say, here, you can go to this service provider. However, that is something that I am working on with service providers in the county and with our supervisor in our area of how we can facilitate that and share it across, because one of the things about homeless is they have rights and they can be in the parks. And they have rights that we cannot ask them to leave. I think we listened to, and we had an attorney who came to speak to us about constitutional rights of the homeless, and they haven't. And so we don't actively move them out during the day because they have the right to be in the park. If you or you is allowed to sit on a park bench all day long, so can one of the members who are unhoused. But there are groups in the county that do work with the homeless, and we are trying to see how we can spearhead that, not let our police department handle it because they don't have that bandwidth, right? But who do we direct people to? And I will tell you, I don't know what you've had here, but I have people in my park who I will direct them myself. Here's where you can go. And they tell me where I can go. So it's kind of a catch-22. We'll keep working at that. So hopefully I've answered some of that for you.
Yes, thank you.
Kind of piggyback on that, Sacramento City and county, I've been working on alternatives to 911. I know the city has a broadcast number. I'm not quite sure about the county, but I can find it out real quickly. But I'm wondering, as a part of what you're looking at with unhoused communities and others, I know you mentioned child abuse and some other kind of very familiar situations, family situations, things like that. Is there a plan for your police department to actively work with alternatives to 911 that could address some of the very same issues that you just raised that we saw during COVID? That I have a feeling is going to, we're going to see the impact of that for a few more years to come.
We have a memorandum of understanding with the sheriff's department, so we defer to them on that oversight because our purview is the parks, right? And so if we see things happening in the park, we will certainly address that. Probably some of the things you're talking about would happen mostly outside of the parks, but particularly like child abuse.
Yeah.
But we do try to, if we notice those things, obviously our officers report. And when you call our dispatch number, it is the dispatch number for the sheriff's department, so we're all getting that information and we're all sharing that information. So I don't know if I answered it totally, but...
Not quite. I get the MOU, right? So is what you're saying that when you see something, your standard operating procedure is to call the sheriff's department regardless? Or is there is there a possibility that, for example, you talked about, maybe a unhoused community member, you tell them where they can go, they tell you where you can go, it escalates a bit, but we really don't want to call the sheriff because we really understand that this person is going through a hard time, so maybe we're contacting, the alternative to 911 so that they can directly put them with social services or whatever that may be, for the same reasons why you don't want to run a tag because some folks may be behind in D&D and now they've got a world of trouble coming out of that. It can be the same thing with the experiences that some of our unhoused community members have had with law enforcement and police that could trigger something that,
We do not have that today.
Right.
However, I don't know if you all are familiar with the city of Sacramento has a social worker that works right alongside their chief
Yes.
to address some of those things. So we have been in communication with them on some of that to see, okay, what could we do? Again, though, we're a part-time police department, and so we will be challenged on many levels to provide that kind of service. But that's not to say that I'm not exploring it. So
Please do.
today, the best thing I can tell you is I am exploring that.
Okay, please do. Thank you so much.
Sure.
I mean, I'll piggyback real quick on that. I know Sac County has an officer and a social worker, a couple of different vehicles that go around.
Right.
Because a friend of mine, that was what she did with the social worker. So there are people out there trying, like Emily was saying, they are part-time entity. So being part-time, they can only do so much. I got to note here, ever since we got them here, I've noticed our parks, we don't have many reports from Scott saying we were vandalized, graffiti. We used to have graffiti a lot. And I drive at night too, and I see how our parks are good. You know, our parks, they're not like go down Roseville Road, you know, per se, you know, that unfortunate area. But they're helping us keep our parks, because I mean, the bottom line, it says on our thing, we close at dusk, you know, but we can't, we're not gonna run. They're not gonna, or they better not just run, oh, it's after dark, yeah, you know, but the good discretion, I like it, I've liked it ever since we came aboard. You know, I noticed this was a slow month, you know, on my report, you know, which I put that instilled from what you say by, you know, giving a little leniency with the officer that's out there, you know, just don't be that go happy, go lucky, hey, oh, now I'm writing you a ticket, you know, or I'm gonna run you, oh, you're coming with me, you know, so, but I like you, I think that was probably one of the better things that we did, because I've been here when we've had those others, and yeah, so I like it.
I have a quick question, if you don't mind. I know you mentioned it's a part-time department in a sense. So when does the patrolling take place? Is it certain hours or is it 24 hours? How does that work?
It is based on when the chief works with each district on when they would like to have hours fulfilled. And so like I may want, I don't know, Tuesday night, 4 to midnight, and Larry here may want on Thursday night from 2 to 6. So we work with each park district on what it is that works for them.
Generally, Lottie, in our district, the most activity takes place in parks, it seems to be the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday period. So what we do, we give some discretion to the police department too, because it's a field. They know when things are starting to happen at parks and when they want to shift resources. And correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, but what we try to do is put more hours during the spring, summer, and early fall on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then in the wintertime, when you've got storms and bad weather, we reduce those hours a little bit because there's not as great a need. And we, again, we defer to often to the police department because the offices are out there. They know what's going on. But I did share with Emily a story that, as you know, as a board, we had an arson in one of our parks a few months ago. I think he set 3 fires. We weren't exactly sure who it was, but the officers were pretty certain they knew who it was. But that same night, they had undercover officers in our parks watching. And from that process and from some eyewitness reports of who they saw hanging around the equipment just shortly before these fires started, they were able to identify an individual and talk to him. I wasn't there, I can't tell you exactly what words they said, but basically is, we have a good idea, it's you, and we're going to be watching you, and all of a sudden this guy disappears. Never, you know. So, you know, we do, you know, they respond, their response is immediate. Sergeant Magaziner, he jumped on that real quick, and it's not the first time they've done that. They understand that, you know, you can't wait a week to do that. And so anyway, I just wanted to add that in there, but that's kind of how we stagger our hours right now, is the Thursday through Sunday period.
I wish they could go 7 days a week, but it's not cheap to have professional officers in your parks, but it is much better than to have security guards who can't cite, who can't issue tickets, who can't make arrests, who, it doesn't take long for people to figure out that they can't do anything. So I think, it's like Pat said, I think it's one of the better decisions that our board certainly made when this was a crisis situation. And I think we've all benefited from having full-time pay on our serving as our police officers.
Thank you, Emily, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hopefully our
Thank
state
you
drive.
for partnering with us, we appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right, B, Parsius District Audit that ended in June of 2021. Did everyone get their package? Did I see? Mine must be in my, because I looked at, I looked at it. I don't have much from when we brought it to the board and went over. It was one of those, it was nice, it was clean, as Larry, isn't that your word, clean?
Pat, maybe it might be a good idea for people who, especially with the newer board members who weren't here when we did the audit last year, maybe just give you a quick overview of the audit. So we're required by law to have an audit once a year. We contract I think it's every 3 years, we do a request for proposal from audit firms, and then an audit firm is selected, and that audit firm will conduct the audit annually. This is something Terry is very, very deeply involved in. The audit, we will say, occurs over a 3-day period. The reality of it is it starts months before, because the audit firm is constantly asking Terry to submit financial information, and through this audit, and then again, the audit tests your information. It doesn't look at every single piece of paper, every single transaction. They test the various parts, and from that process, they come up with an audit report. And what you want to see in your audit report is something, what you don't want to see rather, is something called findings. Now, findings isn't exactly a bad word, as I cited in my my staff report. I just want me, if you don't mind me reading this. What is an audit finding? An audit finding consists of audit results and conclusions based on appropriate analysis and evaluation. Findings usually result in recommendations that will assist an area to better achieve its business objectives. And the 5 areas are condition. What is the problem? What is happening? Number 2 is cause. Why did this happen? Criteria. How do we as auditors know this is a problem? And effect. Why does this condition matter? What is the impact? And recommendation. How do we solve the problem? That last one is the key. That's when you see the finding of how do we solve the problem. They identified in the audit, and then staff has to come back to the board and say, we had 3 or 4 findings, here's what they were, here's the action we're taking to make those corrections. And I'm pleased to say, because I actually got it wrong, I thought it was 3 years in a row we had no findings. It was 4 years in a row we've had no findings. And so, I think this is just a testament that we have changed a lot of our financial policies in our district, doing checks and balances. We're a small district, so unlike larger districts that might have 3 or 4 people in the finance department, we look at Terry. And so we changed some things. From a previous finding was there was a concern of lack of oversight. So one of the things I changed when I came here was Terry reviews the financial documents, the bank statements and so forth. Then I get them and I review them, so we have a check and balance to make sure things are right. When we take revenues in every day and we look at the cash drawer and it goes into the safe, it's not just one person looking at it, it's a second person looking at it, make sure, okay, we said we deposited $500, okay, it wasn't $495, it was $500, they verified that. So since that time, we have not had any findings, which is a good thing. It doesn't mean we won't have findings sometime in the future, but and tagging on what Pat said, I picked up the lingo from our auditors. It's what they call a clean audit. That means they found no findings whatsoever. So I think that's a testament to our staff, the oversight that they provide in making sure that our documentation and record keeping of our financial because Terry is getting, I don't know how many hundreds of documents she has to send the auditors. And then when they're doing the audit, it's constantly phone calls, back and forth, emails, walking in your office, requesting things. And boy, it's kind of nice when you're done at the end of the day that it was good. It was a good experience. So having said that, I'll turn it back over to Pat and Crystal, who represent the Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee.
Crystal, you got anything?
You said it all.
All right, then what I need to do, I need a first and a second on it, so we can approve it.
So question.
Well, okay, then I will take a motion. Go ahead.
What are we approving?
The audit,
You're accepting the audit.
the audit's complete, yeah.
Okay, all right. So moved.
So move. Just say.
Second.
Hold on. You're approving, you're motioning that we accept to say that first.
There should be a recommendation. I would suggest that you read the recommendation.
Oh, that's
I make a motion to approve the audit for year ending 2021 as the final audit. There you go.
Second that.
Any further discussion? Ms. Perry?
Board Member Hardy,
Aye.
Board Member Reynolds,
Hey,
Board Member Vaughn,
Aye.
Chairperson Williams,
Aye.
motion passed 4-0.
All right, C, part-time employee salary adjustment.
I'm actually going to turn that over to Sarah.
All right, so as many of you know, the part-time staff climate is kind of unlike it ever has been before. Part-time wages are skyrocketing, and there are more jobs and less people in the market. We need to be able to hire, not only hire, but retain part-time staff. And so we kind of looked at what the going rates are around the area and really kind of come up with a plan that puts us at an equal playing field so that we're able to at least compete as we are reopening, have been reopening and starting new programs. We need to hire people, and we just need to be able to compete. So we put together this report to kind of show you what we're looking at and how that would go. Right now, our budget can carry us through to December. However, to finish off the fiscal year, we would need an additional $13,000, which would be requested at the mid-year budget transfer time at the December meeting. But we wanted to put together the report now, as time is of the essence, and we really, really need to start hiring people. So we would really like to put these increases into effect, effective as soon as possible. So I don't really know how to wrap that up, but that's kind of the essence of this report here.
I just want to tag on to that. This request is not asking for you for additional funding at this time. That will come next month when we do the mid-year budget adjustment. But by your approval to understand what we're going through and what we're requesting, which is staff recommends the Board of Directors approve the proposed part-time salary schedule as presented, with the actual funding to be included part of the December 9th, 2021 mid-year adjustment. By doing it now, that helps Rachel and Sarah start advertising at the higher rates. They're probably not going to be able to get these people hired until you actually approve the funding of it. But we needed to get in front of it because we're falling behind.
Well, I totally agree, and I move to approve the proposed part-time salary schedule as presented.
second.
Any further discussion?
Thank you for doing this and
Yes.
recognizing where the gaps are and what we need to do, so.
Carrie?
Board Member Crystal, sorry, Board Member Reynolds,
Hey,
Board Member Vaughn,
Aye.
Chairperson Williams,
Aye.
motion passed 4-0.
All right, the next one, a good one. Board of Director candidates. Do you want me to talk, or do you?
I can set the tone if you like.
It's pretty simple. As Larry said in the beginning, we did everything we had to do, by putting it out, putting it in the newspaper and do everything. So when the time was up, we got 4 individuals, four candidates. When we weren't gonna have any, it didn't seem like we only had one for a long time. You know, and getting there going, oh, okay. And then they started coming in. But due to the fact that all that, out of the 4, one of them withdrew today because he decided he was moving out of the district. So, the way we're gonna do this is, I'll introduce the 2 we have here, three people that are here that are interviewing for it. And then once I introduce who they are, I'll send them outside and I'm gonna bring them in, or we will bring them in the way that we receive. So like the first one, it would be John Burchelli, right? That's it, okay. So he'll be the first one that we bring in. So, but we got John Burchelli was the first one that came in. Then we had Jeffrey Armstrong, he was the one that backed out. He sent in his letter. Then we had a Miss Vea Cummings, and then Miss Carla Black. So if I can have Vea, probably just.
I can leave.
We'll bring it back one back in.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we're just gonna take out the hallway and then we'll bring one of you in.
You move your stuff. When you get to take it.
Wherever you are.
Hey, John, you'll be the first one to go back.
So,
Making sure we can
You
pass.
still want me to go out and come back in, or just stay here?
I think yeah, we can go out. You're all
Bye,
very
Rachel.
comfortable.
We got a lot of work tomorrow.
Just had to add that on, right? She's gonna slip out.
She doesn't know.
all right, so now we can ask as many questions as we want. There's 5, but I'm first going to have him introduce himself. And basically what he has in his letter of interest. So, Mr. Burchelli?
You don't have to stand up, you want your eyes
Well, I'll go with this thing. So good evening, board and staff. My name is John Burchelli, and I'm interested in serving on the board. And I'm happy to entertain your questions.
Well, I guess the first question I would ask is, why us, why this seat, and why now?
I have much to offer, and I have lots of free time on my hands. Yeah.
Do you have any particular vision for either parks as a whole in North Highlands, or any particular park that you are kind of fond of within your own neighborhood? Is there a vision there?
I've been an active community member in North Highlands since 1972, so pretty much most of my adult life. I've been involved as a community member in what the Park District's been doing for the past 30 years. I've participated in every community engagement process that the Park District has done in the past 30 years. In the past, I've helped the district secure funding for playground equipment like over at Freedom Park, for instance. I've got a long history of programs and projects that I have partnered with the Park District to bring to the community over the years. And since I've stepped out of that realm, pretty much all that stuff has disappeared. So if I want to see things come back, I need to step up and do my part. So I'm throwing my hat in to give you all a hand and bring in resources. And one of the big things you guys have upcoming here is how you can engage with the business community. Another thing is how you're going to engage with the folks that used to do all the gifting and everything. And for our community, I have those existing relationships with the folks that have been doing this for the past 2-3 decades. And so I believe I have plenty to offer the board and the district. I'm very well aware of what the neighboring park districts offer and what we currently are lacking, not offering. I do have some ideas of how to engage the different age groups that currently are not really being served by the park district. And so I believe I have the most to offer, and I have the most time and availability. I have a couple decades of board experience, so I'm familiar with all the board processes and how to do motions and parliamentary procedures and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm probably a little rusty because I've taken a 5 or 6 year break to focus on my health, but my health is now to the point where I can finally give back to my community.
I've definitely observed how active and engaged you are in community. I've seen you at different events, activities, promoting on social media, outspoken at different platforms, different events. And I definitely see your heart and passion for the community where you live. You talked about some of the things you don't see. What are some of the goals and things that you do want to see here in your district?
I want to see more stuff for the everyday community resident. So we're really lacking in organized dog parks, for instance. We don't have that. If you want to go to the dog park, you got to go to Gibson Ranch, and that's just a buzz hit. And that's not very, and I don't know how familiar you're all with the history of Freedom Park, but originally that was the Air Force Dog Training Center many years ago. Probably before some people even bought that. So dogs and people and the Air Force and this whole community that is it's just an element that's not currently being served, and it's a shame. We have all these beautiful parks, and it doesn't seem like there's been any interest from the board to serve the dog owners of North Island. So that would be one group. Another group would be the teenagers. We're the only park district that doesn't have any kind of skateboard park facilities for the kids, and that's a shame. And I think that that could be addressed, and I believe we can serve our community much better than where we currently are, but it's going to take teamwork, and it's going to take a new master plan. And the last master plan was done in 2006. I was part of that process. Nobody in this room here, other than me, was around back in those days. There was lots of good intentions that went into that plan, but a lot of time has rolled by. That was 16 years ago. And it's time to re-engage the community and find out what the community really wants, because it's been 16 years since the board has talked to the community and said, hey, what services would you like to see? And I really think that I can make that happen with the resources and network that I already have here in North Island.
So what does the park district do well?
What does the park district do well? It maintains lots of green lawns really well. It has some really nice facilities. That Cherry Blossom Park, that thing is a masterpiece. There was a process a couple years ago to look at, developing the park up here on White Avenue, what is it called? Sierra Creek. So I was involved in that process, and I believe you attended some of those meetings, I recall, yourself. And so that was an opportunity to actually listen to what the community said, because that was community outreach specifically for that purpose. And there were certain interests that kept coming up through that process that were things that the community said, hey, this is what we want. And so far, none of that has been addressed. So I would just like to make my park district the best it can be for my community. And I love North Highlands. I've been here, like I said, since 1972. I own my own home. Not moving anywhere. It's going to be here till the day I die. And so I gotta just, I gotta do what I can do to help make things better. And, I'm very familiar with working with Crystal. She's one of the best collaborators in our area. She's really engaged in the youth, which, is an area that the park district is not as engaged in, that age group. And back in the day when I was a kid, the park district did offer things. Every Friday night we had Friday Night Live, and it was here. It was possible because there were many partners involved. The sheriff's department was involved, so they had officers. So we didn't have to hire security because they were partners. So, anyways, I don't know if anyone else has any questions. How about you, sir?
Yeah, we do have a, let's say, occasional conflict, let's say, with the differences of the board. How do you think you manage conflict?
Well, I've served on an awful lot of boards, and so, everybody has their opportunity to support their case, and, the strongest case is the one that everyone as a group needs to rally behind, because the board is not effective unless they work together. And yes, you don't always have to agree on every situation, but fundamentally, you all want to be on the same page. You still all want to achieve the same destination, the same goal. Does that answer your question?
All right, thank you. I guess how you step out.
I'll just go up there.
Yeah, go out there and you.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, what we're going to have to do is, with all these candidates, we have to, 3 out of the 4 of us has to agree on a candidate. If we don't agree, just like Larry sent out numerous times, it goes to the county, and the county might not even look at any of these and give us somebody else. But I'll be honest with you, I'm going to start with him in the comment session. He's definitely not getting my vote. And the reason why. When we posted the fire at Freedom Park, right? I made it just a comment on there, this is why we can't have nice things. And he attacked us. When I say he attacked us, he said, horrible mismanagement and park leadership needs to take responsibility. How poorly the parks are cared for is a disgrace. I can't work with anybody that laughs like that and puts it on social media. You get on social media, you can't take it back. Listing them in here, he didn't really have any good things to say about North Highland Park and Rec. We had some nice lawns, great facilities. This is what he'll never get my vote. So I'll just leave that one there. I mean, I wanted to reply back to him on that, but I did my better judgment and didn't. You know, because everyone can say what they want. Because what we're saying here, come next month when Don puts it out on there, he's gonna see everything that I said, I have no problems. So, I mean, it's proof in the pudding, you know, this is where everybody gets in trouble when they post stuff. So,
Quick question for Larry on process. Since we are on process, yeah, since we are considering Carla Black, her letter.
well, no, we'll get to her in a sec.
No, I just want process, just process.
Okay.
Okay? So is the final vote tonight, or do we still have time?
Tonight.
It's
No,
tonight. Okay, even if, okay, all right, thank you.
So,
We don't have a rubric or anything. I
So
saw the
any-
questions that were received, but it's not like a scale of, it's just based on growth.
We're so small, and there's only 3 candidates, it seems a simple process. And I did, just so you know, I did run the process by our attorney, and he said, look, there are no provisions that state exactly how you have to do it. You have some leeway in doing this, and we've done this before. And, you know, again, it depends on how many candidates you have. At one time, we thought we had 4, right? So the numbers change. So the process will be that when the last candidate is done, we will pass out ballots to you. You'll check the one you want. We'll turn those into the chairperson, and it requires 3 votes for someone to be appointed.
Okay.
But did you have?
Yeah, I wanted to add something. So I did some research on all the candidates, just a quick kind of Google search. There's not much I was able to find, but I did find, actually, John, I don't know if this is the same person or not, but seems like based on the previous history, he's been convicted on some felonies. So that's one thing that popped up. I'm not sure if, I have an article here, it's from, I don't know where it's from, but from CDC Sacramento. And this was back in 2010. It seems like he was applying for one of the boards, school board. So that came up, and there's a couple of things on here. I don't know if you want to take a look at this or not, but this kind of.
Who was it for? Who was it regarding? The gentleman?
Yeah, the gentleman that was here earlier. That are the candidates. So that raises a huge red flag for me.
and he was when we had those Sierra Creek sessions over there, he was at most of them. You know, and honestly, he should have known our process. He knew that we were trying to get a grant. He just thinks we blew it off. You know, we all know so well we're just waiting for our monies. So.
Yeah, it just, that's a big concern for me, some people representing our district, so. I mean, based on what he said, it seems like, he's been, based on what he said, I'm not sure, how accurate it is, but it seems like he's done a lot. That's and it almost matches, I'm not sure, with your comment, that's something I didn't see, but.
Yeah, he's been around, there's no doubt. So, go to the next person.
Just when the boards, you're going to have more time after the last one, when you talk about Carla. You'll have more time to kind of talk and that by the time we'll have seen the other candidate as well. Okay. So is everybody okay if we go ahead?
We're not on it, so Larry, this is Mr. Armstrong, he's just going to.
Yeah, Mr. Armstrong, read it.
Miss Cummings.
Do you know Mr. Armstrong? Because it seems like y'all like 5 houses apart.
Yes, so I actually, it's funny, because I actually, told him about the position. So he was very interested, he told me to think about it, and next thing I know, he applied. But today I got a email from Larry saying that he.
No, I thought
so,
the 6200 block, I thought you were gonna run the.
Right? Yeah, seriously.
Right?
Yeah. I really like, I walk my daughter, so I see their family all the time. So I was very excited about,
Okay.
interviewing him, and unfortunately that happened.
Please give him our well wishes on.
I will,
this
I will.
new,
Thank
phase
you.
for his family.
Will do.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Yeah, I've just never seen so many people move out of district.
Yeah, it's,
Like I said, there's always been a standard here with Diane and Alan. We had Sarah for a while, then we had Zach, and everyone. Mike, he worked in Woodland, Yeah, it's just amazing.
I know with him, it is a small house, they have a parking, they have a parking. So I think that, I'm guessing,
I'm sure there has.
Yeah, that's
Making sure I don't slip this floor.
Please don't have paid our insurance this month.
That is not true.
I know, right?
So,
Strike that from the record.
I'll go like this. Hi, Ms. Cummings, can you introduce yourself? We want you to stand up.
Oh, boy. Go here.
You can stand up. You can stand up.
Wherever you
What makes you comfortable?
Hi, my name is Mia Cummings, and I know him from soccer my son plays. And I also have worked with both Sarah and Rachel in the programs, so we were lucky enough to work with the camps and after school. So that particular program is very near and dear to me, so I wanted to get an opportunity to give back or work with you guys, in order to do that.
Thank you for your interest in applying.
Thank you. So my question is, you're putting your name in the hat, your hat in the game to represent and serve your community.
Yes.
Why this board and why now?
So I've lived here for 9 years, and let's be honest, this city, it's a hard city, right? So when I first came here, I was taking my son to because we're very active. We go outside, we go hiking, we go to parks and whatever. And so when I went to Freedom Park, I was just kind of whoa. It's super clean, it's nice, there's no unhomed people there. And seeing that, I was very surprised and shocked. And then again, all the programs that they offer was my really big appeal to it.
Okay. And now, how does this fit now in your life with your son? You talked a lot about weekend and everything.
Yeah, to be quite honest, I have a little bit more time now.
Okay.
Because my job, I work from home now, and my schedule's a little different.
Okay. All right.
And now Lincoln, he goes to the after-school program, so it makes it a lot easier to have time, because I surely did not.
Okay. Because he goes to FC Joyce, right?
He does. Yep.
Yeah, what are some of the goals that you have, and what do you see that you'd like to bring to the district?
Well, I don't know if it's even an option, but I have worked with Weave in the past, and I don't know if that is something currently that is offered here, but maybe something like that. So
That's good.
hopefully, anything, right?
Yeah.
Because it's an amazing program, and I don't think a lot of people that are in that situation know that there is programs like that. And so it's more awareness. Thank you. Sorry, I can't breathe.
I got one.
Yes, sir.
In your opinion, what do you think, how do you think without these services for your son Lincoln?
Oh, well,
Tell what has it done for Lincoln?
so for one, when the pandemic occurred, everybody's going crazy. I work from home and I have a very stressful job, and to try to do Zoom with him, I was going through it. And so was he, and thank God Rachel called and was like, hey, we have this, come, because he used to go to camps. And so that's how we knew them, and so she had actually called the principal directly. And so the weight of the stress was lifted, seriously. And, excuse me.
And I saw for the other families too. You know, it's an amazing service and a program.
This is the distance learning program.
Both. So he does the Thanksgiving camp and the winter camp, and he does the distance learning for I think it was a year and a half.
I guess I'll ask a question. We occasionally run into differences in the board. How do you think you handle conflict?
So in my job, I work as an escalation supervisor. So I am presented with that all day. I think I am the manager. No, I am presented with that all day. I get yelled at all day, but it's just easier to show empathy, compassion, and a solution. Offer a resolution. Like, it might not be something that they initially want, but at the end of the day, if it's something that they can work with, then that's really all that matters, right?
I was a resolution specialist
I
back in the day, so I know exactly what
Yeah.
you're talking about.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
What about your other question?
No, I'm good. Yeah, I'll talk, when she's gone, I'll give my spiel.
Oh, no.
Is there anything else that you want to kind of leave us with?
Any questions for
I
us?
did have a question, but now I'm like on the spot, so it kind of.
Go ahead,
slipped my mind.
now's the time to ask.
I know I forgot what it was.
And as soon as you step out the door.
It was, so I did actually. Obviously, my kid loves the program. I did. I'm very near and dear. When the kids went back to school full time, he does go to the after school program within the school district. And I had seen Rachel out there, and I was like, please tell me you guys have like a program like this, because, you know, just, it's a different vibe, you know, different feeling. So maybe that could be something in the future, but I know how hard it is with like the part-time hiring. So.
Can I ask you a question for clarification? Are you talking about us doing a program?
Like a parallel program.
Like at S.E. Joyce?
Correct.
Just so the board is aware, we have been approached on a regular basis by Twin Rivers Unified School District because I think our program is a model that we have at Ridge Point, and look how close we are to S.E. Joyce, right? And what has held us back was, one, we were leaning in that direction, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
And so that put everything kind of on hold. And then we came out of this year, and we just saw kind of the writing on the wall with the lack of being able to recruit staff. I do think that is certainly something that the board and staff should have a discussion about into next year, because we get offered the S.E. Joyce program every single year.
I would fight for that so hard.
Yeah, I mean, it does have its advantages because look how close it is. And we have a natural relationship with S.E. Joyce because we share a parking lot, which we have to dodge in our own trying to get out of sometimes. But I just wanted to point that out, that the candidate brought that up, and it is something that we would, I think in an ideal world, we'd like to do that, but you have to have the staff, and that's a much bigger program. That's twice the size of Ridge Point's program. So if we're having a hard time getting qualified people and paying them, a good wage, it's going to be more challenging. But I would certainly think that would be something for us to look at in the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Am I leaving or just
Now
leaving
we're
the
just gonna
room?
hang out outside.
Okay.
And then can you pronounce your name for me one more time?
Via.
Yeah.
Yes, but Via, it's all the same. See, did you get almost slipped?
I haven't seen anything.
None of us here.
No video.
Yeah, the way I met her is when we were looking for bodies, Larry said, hey, we only got one person. And I said, okay, so my soccer team, we got coach 10 and under. And I said, hey, any parent here would like to volunteer and help this park district, we're looking for bodies. And she didn't even hesitate. She goes, Rachel worked there, Sarah, yeah. She started, but I know her son. I watch her son. To me, if you look at, she's got a kid in the program. I think she's the only one out of all of them that has a child in the program.
Well, currently, I I remember getting a scholarship from Park District.
No, but I mean, of our candidates,
Applicant.
of our candidates, she's the only one with a child and one that swears by it.
Yeah.
Uh, So,
Well, it seems like she already knows some of the staff too, so that's,
that's a positive. I mean,
Yeah,
knows our,
that's-
knows
yeah,
our
exactly.
program, and like she
Yeah.
said, I mean, I didn't know anything really, you know, it's plus a female.
Yes.
Plus a female. Hey, we gotta put that, you
Throw in
can't be
some
by
balance.
yourself,
Throw
girl.
in some balance.
And we can't have you by yourself.
She offers a lot of
Yeah.
extra diversity to this.
Yes.
To this group.
Skill set.
So yeah. Yeah, I'm ready to, that is it, I'm ready to dig into this.
Ms. Carla.
This Black.
How does the third candidate work?
Okay, Carla Black, it's just looking over her, we can't ask her questions.
Yeah, unfortunately.
She had, I don't know what I can say, I'll let you say.
Well, let me just say this, as you may have known, and as I shared with you, and probably not all the details, but we've had some back and forth going on between this candidate. The candidate made a decision, she was given options of how we could address, the board could address her application, and she made the decision not to attend. And I told her I would simply inform the board, I won't get into the details. Unless you want to know, I think it's probably best, but let's just say that, at the end of the day, everybody has an option and a decision to make it. But she did say she wanted her letter of interest to stand for her application. As Pat said, we don't have the ability, or you don't have the ability to ask questions and respond to any answers. But I would suggest that you treat her as a viable candidate.
Yeah.
If you choose not to vote for her, that's up to you. If you choose to, that's up to you as well.
Go ahead.
I am considering my words wisely.
Smart man. Yeah, right there.
Yeah, once it's out, you can't
Yeah,
take it back,
right
right?
there, that's right.
I understand where Ms. Black is coming from. And I think this may have been one of our first times that actually have to face this. I know lots of other entities, companies, people have had to do that. Which is, we're not out of the woods. We're going to have other mandates come down, and public safety is paramount to me. I think it would be difficult moving forward in this time to be able to really support Ms. Black in her position as well as key public safety paramount. Outside of this pandemic, I think it may be other opportunities and choices, but I remember you, sir, last year and the beginning of this year, you were the most hopeful guy ever. That next month it was going to be over. Unfortunate for me, my mother is a doctor and she works in this every day, and she's telling me every day during that time, it's not happening. And so I still kind of have that in my mind that we're not out of the woods. It's an extraordinary time, and I think we have to maybe have to do some things extraordinary. So.
I totally agree. I like the way you said that, because like I said, I liked what she wrote,
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
but
We got to do what we got to do right
we
now.
gotta have a body presence,
Yeah.
and
Well, maybe
maybe next time.
Maybe weigh in
It's
on
gonna
that.
happen soon.
Maybe in the future, when we do get past this, and she can't participate without her impacting her religious beliefs,
Yeah.
that might create another opportunity
Right.
for her. And we know from recent past history, that
It can happen.
but no, and being all seriousness, I think that's probably the best approach is that, and again, it's your vote, it's not mine. But I think it's a good idea that, again, on paper, I thought she looked very good. But, again, we have to remember it was her choice not to participate. And that you have to decide what you want to do with that.
Okay.
Are you done talking about the
So, I mean, anyone got, about any of the ones that we've seen, or anyone got anything else, or can we vote?
Well, here's what we need to do. We need to bring the candidates back in. And so you need to do this in front of them. So what'll happen is, Terry's blink button, I'll pass out the ballots to you. You'll pick a name. I think you've gone through this once before. And I'll you fold it, give it to me, I'll give it to Pat. And if the first time we do it, there's 3 votes, then that's the person. If it's a 2-2 vote, Pat's going to ask you to do it again. And the only thing I really want to caution everybody on is that, and I think Pat said this early on, you want to control your own destiny. And I don't know if Terry knows if we've ever had this go to the County Board of Supervisors, but I did talk to a couple of districts that had go to the County Board of Supervisors. They did not look at any of the candidates, and they picked a constituent. That doesn't mean that's bad. That just means you no longer have a say-so. You get who you get. And if for some reason, believe it or not, if the board chooses not to appoint, we're required to do a special election. From what I heard, we're probably looking at $100,000.
That's not.
So I only say that to you. I know it's not easy. It's difficult when you look at situations like this. But I really strongly encourage you to find a candidate that you can work with, and that you think will be well represented on this board, and holds the community in high regards, and is going to be active. But having said that, again, your decision. But when I pass these out, I'll bring everybody back in. And if you don't mind, I'll just take a minute to explain to them what you're doing. And let's assume that in round 1 you come back and there's 3 or 4 votes for one candidate. Then I'm going to ask Pat. Pat's going to announce who it is, but then he's going to ask you to make a motion and a second to appoint that person to the board.
Gotcha.
So I will announce it with them both here.
So yeah, with everybody, we have to do it. We have to keep an open session. So you're going to announce that the board has reached the decision that there is a candidate that received the majority votes, and that candidate is XYZ. And I'm accepting a motion and a second for this candidate. All in favor? Aye. Then I will get up. I will swear that candidate in, give the oath of office, and they will join you at the podium or at the table. Yeah, but, so does that make sense? Okay. I'll go out and get it. I can just pass these out to you now, so we don't have to. We'll just save a little time here.
So we just put the name of the candidate.
The names are already there. You just have to put a check mark.
Yeah.
So you do fall out of your chair?
Oh, and if I could add this to you as well, Crystal and others, whoever is not selected, please thank them and appreciate their time and effort they put into this.
Thank you much.
Gotcha.
How many votes do you?
One vote. One vote. We only got 2 people. We only got 3 people. Look at that.
Oh, man, well, I already know you have to vote.
Okay. All right. I will go ahead and bring my brother on.
Because I have to.
I got you.
Pat, maybe you can say, welcome everybody back.
Kind of know where it's going.
One vote. Okay, I already know. I'm not sure. Okay,
Very
I got you.
good.
I know who you, I got you.
Hmm.
I know who you got.
Is that who you?
No,
We gotta wait till they come in here.
Oh, okay.
Hey, you know that New
Yeah,
York,
okay.
only tennis shoes still made in America?
So I'm going to.
I love New Balance,
I do too.
but I'm
I'm not
so,
unionized, so it kind of pisses me off, but they are the only major brand that still.
Yeah. Yeah, he did have.
Like, I don't know about this or about jam. I he was a little bit upset. Yeah, very much. I'm not sure how to put my feelings out though. Yeah.
I'm kind of curious.
You did that little piece.
Uh-huh. I think I get it through this time.
Sarah, that is America. I like it.
It is, thank you.
Yeah, I like it.
All right, yeah, I like that.
I appreciate it. I was telling Pat a lot earlier, I'm the person that lets it grow out and I complain for 2 months. If it's too long, I'm gonna go get a haircut. I'm gonna go get a haircut. I never do, and then I don't say anything and I wind up with it gone. Thank you, Bill.
All right, well, welcome back, you two.
Yes, welcome back.
Hopefully we didn't keep you out there too long. Basically what we're gonna do, we all have a piece of paper in front of us. We're gonna check off. They're gonna hand it to Larry. Then Larry will give it to me, or they're just gonna hand it straight to me.
He's going to give it to you.
Hand it straight to me, I'll look at it. We have to have a majority vote. So, everyone do your vote.
Just define the majority of free votes.
Oh. All right, we do have a majority vote.
If you want to go ahead and announce who that person is, and then the board has to make a motion in a second.
Oh, that's right, motion is second. Vaya Cummings, so can I get a motion in a second?
I move, go ahead. I move to appoint Dave Cummings to the board.
I second that.
No further discussion, right?
Yes, a vote.
And the vote is a majority vote.
Or would you say all in favor?
Oh, all in favor?
Aye. Terry, then you can do roll
Oh,
call.
do I don't get to do myself?
Oh.
Yes, you get to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Well, that's what you said. Why
Thank you, Bo. Board Member Harding.
Aye.
Board Member Reynolds.
Hey,
Board Member Valen.
Aye.
Chairperson Noah Williams.
Aye.
Motion passed 4-0.
Mr. Urchilli, I appreciate you coming in.
yes, sir.
We'll keep your letter of interest, because as you've seen on our board, these people go. Hopefully no one's moving.
And we
No
value,
one else is moving, right?
So thank you very much for coming tonight and speaking to us.
we value your participation and your commitment and passion for community. And we know we'll continue to collaborate with you throughout the years. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
And I would also ask, I know this might not be the result that you were looking for, but we're getting into the master plan again. And what you spoke about having experience doing the master plan, it would be great to hear from you things that we can tweak, do better, different ways that you may, just different suggestions that you have, since this wouldn't be your first time around with the master plan. So I hope that we're still able to work with you and engage with you.
Oh, I'm not going anywhere just because I didn't get chosen.
All right,
Now, you better round
This
the
is my
line.
neighborhood to you, I ain't going nowhere.
I got you.
Well, just so you know, dog parks in our district are, I would think would be a high priority
Yeah.
in this board.
I fully support that.
Yes,
I'm a
yes.
dog dad too.
Since I've been involved with building 3 other dog parks, I'm excited about doing that again because I know our community needs
Talk
that.
about it at Sierra Creek, don't you have it, so that is probably within 6 months is gonna get going, so.
Sooner than that.
So, well, I don't want to get too much out of it. So that Sierra Creek will definitely, by 2025, will be definitely beautiful.
So, Mia, this is where the fun begins. I'll ask you to stand up. I'm going to read you the oath of office. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's me.
Right?
That's me.
Okay. And my glasses are fogging up.
Thank goodness for face masks.
Give me a second, but I want to record it because I'm sure Lincoln wants to see this.
Oh, yes, he does.
You guys tell me when you're ready.
All right, give me 1 second. All right, I'm a little slow here. All right. I'm
I'm ask you to raise your
ready.
right hand. This is for the oath of office of Board of Directors of the North Highlands Recreation Park District. I, Daya Cummings, do solemnly swear or affirm
Do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California.
and the Constitution of the State of California.
I take this obligation freely,
I take this obligation freely,
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and I will and faithfully
and I will faithfully
discharge the duties upon
discharge the duties upon
which I'm about to enter.
which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now you get to come up and sit right next to Susan Lottie. We put you to work right away.
Sounds good.
And I will only take a moment to say that you get to take all this stuff home with you. There's a budget, all kinds of things.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm so excited. It's an honor.
Okay, we'll move on. Can we get this done? E, project work plan. Larry.
Well, kind of where we jumping right in here. Let me get to this one. Focus on the other.
Exactly, that's the one. Yep.
Okay. My glasses are far now. I'll try to count without it.
This is the sum.
Okay, so the board is familiar that starting last summer, we started talking about projects for the district. And we established some 2-on-1 board meetings with myself and 2 board members. But we've also talked about this many times at previous board meetings. So if you go onto our website, you will see a list of projects that we've currently started, ones that will start, and ones that are down the road. Most of those projects you have already funded in this year's budget cycle, but some of the projects, such as Ridgepoint Park Playground and, help me out, Scott, Sierra Creek Park, which we received another notice 2 days ago that they promised that they were going to make the announcement. They said that within a few weeks. And again, the reason is that because when the governor added $117 million to the State Park Bond Act, it meant that other agencies who maybe did not qualify now had a chance to qualify. And just like the state did with us in our application, we had to go back, as you remember, and make a couple changes and modifications. So I think that's delayed the process. If there's any saving grace, as you well know, that there were 4 funding cycles. This is the 4th funding cycle, the final. The 3 previous ones were late by 2 months, 3 months, and 5 months. So they're being at least consistent. But anyway, so these projects, you have funded most of these already through the budget. Others, one, we're waiting for a grant, and then there's 2 or 3 that are coming to you in December, where we'll be asking you to provide funding, and those are coming either from the general fund or from developer impact fees, or in some cases both, or paying for the project. So these are, none of these are except for maybe VIA, these are new, but I want to just go over a couple things real quick. I want to talk a little bit about project staffing. Even when we're fully staffed, this is a lot on a plate for just a small number of staff. But as I notified the board, our former facility supervisor resigned, and we are talking about our options, available options to fill that position. That is critical because that position is the kind of represents the hands-on district interaction with the either whether it's a contractor for putting new HVAC system on the community center, paving, or putting in new park pathways in our park system. So that's going to slow us a little bit down, but we have already started a lot of these projects, and we're going to continue moving forward. But 2 things are going to happen. We're going to continue to keep you aware of any changes that may come up. I'm reluctant to back off and defer any of these projects, because when you do that, then they get backlogged. And these are things that need to happen now. And we will do everything we can to make sure these things are still moving forward. One Sierra Creek, and I'll just use a couple here as an example for you. One Sierra Creek Park, I'm going to take the position we're going to get funded. I have every reason to believe we will get funded, and I
Yes.
say a prayer and keep my fingers crossed every night. And so you know, Van, that's $2.8 million project. The first year is going to, you won't probably see a whole lot of development on the park because we have to hire an architect. We have to, as John mentioned earlier, that about participating in the public meetings. We have to start that again. The grant required that we met with a handful of people that live, or not handful, but people who live in the general vicinity of that park. Now we need to reach out to the entire community and get their feedback and input on this park. And through that process, which our landscape architect will lead, and the board members will participate in, that will help tighten up the design that we already have that we submitted to the state. That could be, you might want to add other things into the project if we can afford it. So then we'll design that, and then they'll start developing construction drawings, and then we're going to have to reach out and do an RFP for a contractor. And we're doing an RFP for the landscape architect as well. So you see there's a lot of upfront work that's going to happen before the first shovel full of dirt. But once all that stuff's in place, it's going to move forward fast because we have a timeline to complete the grant. It was mentioned earlier about the park master plan. If the board funds the park master plan in December, we will start as of January contacting firms. I've actually got a list of firms already that do park master plans. I've talked to a couple of special districts that are just finishing up park master plans. So I think we're going to get, we've saved a little bit of time by using their information. And we'll bring these firms, the top-rated firms in to meet with the board, and you'll interview these firms and you'll select a firm. And then the park master plans are fun. They take a long time, but they are a lot of fun because you'll start with a blank sheet of ideas, and at the end you'll narrow those down to what the community really, really wants to see in their park system. Anyway, I don't want to get too detailed with this, but this list of projects, which I won't go through, they're in your report. They're ones that you've already seen and approved actually previous to this. We just put a little added touch to it. We notice for each one, we put a tentative project timeline, the project description, the board of directors approval. Have you already approved it, or do you have to still approve it? Public participation. Does a project require public participation? Yes or no, or we're not sure. Budget. What's the budget, projected budget for this particular project? And will it be done in-house or contracted out? When we say in-house, it's really the management end of it. Scott and I working, and Sarah's going to be involved with this too, is working with these, finding these architects and finding these firms that do concrete work. And once we set get a contract with that person, then it's just really the project oversight to get it done. And we were working on that until we lost a key player in our organization, but we're going to work really hard to fill that position as soon as we can.
I like this format.
Yeah, I kind of do too. I think it kind of evolved over time into this, and then we tightened it up after the last month or so. So what I'm asking you to do tonight is to approve this approach. You've already really approved these projects, but I'm asking you to, under the recommendation, staff recommends that the board of directors approve the proposed district project list as presented, with the understanding that several unfunded projects identified on the list will need board funding approval as part of the December 2001 mid-year budget adjustment. And when you do that, then every one of the projects will be fully funded, and now we'll continue to move forward as we get these things done. Some are going to be done in a few months, some 6 to 12 months. A park project, a little bit longer than that. But, so that's what we're asking you to do.
Vale, would you like to make a motion?
I would.
Okay.
Make a motion, read
Read
the
the
recommendation.
recommendation. Black.
Or you was just here.
We're going to work right away.
So this is it.
To approve the proposed all of it, approved presented.
Okay, so I approve the proposed district project listed as presented with the understanding that several unfunded projects identified on the list will need board funding approval as part of the December 2021 mid-year budget adjustment.
Second?
Yes,
Any
second.
further questions?
Crystal! Board Member Harding, oh my God, this was like my favorite meeting.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Who seconded that?
It was me! I think it might have been Crystal.
I think I heard someone whisper or something.
Okay.
Okay, board member Harding,
Aye.
board member Valley,
Aye.
board member Bear,
Aye.
board member Reynolds,
Hey,
chairperson Williams.
Aye.
Motion passed 5-0.
all right.
Okay. Next one, payment of the bills. We just got those. Kelly answered one question earlier for me. I see our server was cheaper than the $5,000, so I was happy with that. It's only $4,200. That's $800 we can put somewhere else. Yeah, I didn't see anything. So,
I move to approve the,
the budget.
October.
the
Payment of the
October,
bills.
oh, it's the October payment of the bills. I can repeat that again. I move to approve the October payment of the bills.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Board member Reynolds,
Hey,
board member Harding,
Aye.
board member Valley,
Aye.
board member Cummings.
Aye.
Motion, chairperson Williams.
Aye.
Motion passed 5-0.
all right.
All right. Meeting's adjourned till next board meeting, December 9th at 6:30 here in the Community Center.
Next meeting.